In the soft light of the first dawn, Cheong gently held her father's rough, weathered hands. Though the burden of his impossible promise weighed heavily on them, her eyes shone with quiet resolve. Before the morning mist could clear, Sim Hakyu knelt on the cold floor, crushed by the weight of his own blindness and his foolish vow. Cheong reached out to comfort his trembling shoulders. Cheong gently helped her weeping father rise, speaking words of soft reassurance. "Do not despair, father. I will go into the village and find a way to fulfill this sacred vow." Stepping out into the cool, misty courtyard, Cheong adjusted her dress and passed through the cottage gate. Though she had comforted her father, her own heart was heavy with the immense task ahead. Cheong made her way to the village well, where she found the local liaison who handled affairs for the traveling merchants. She bowed deeply, pleadingly asking if there was any way to secure the rice. The liaison shook his head with deep pity. "Cheong, even if the whole village wished to help, 300 bags of rice is an impossible treasure for us to gather." Cheong sat down in disappointment. She gently lifted a small wooden rice bowl near the well. To a girl who struggled to gather even a single bowl of rice each day, 300 bags felt as distant as the stars. Seeing her deep despair, the liaison hesitated before pointing toward the dusty road that led to the distant sea. His face showed the conflict of sharing a secret both terrifying and hopeful. "The wealthy sea merchants are searching for a young maiden to offer to the waters of Indangsu to grant them safe passage," he explained softly. Cheong turned, listening with sudden, breathless attention. "To the family of the maiden who volunteers, the merchants will gladly pay 300 bags of rice," he continued, holding a bowl. Cheong realized this was her only chance to save her father. Without a word, Cheong turned and walked alone along the frosty mountain path. Amidst the quiet trees, she struggled to quiet her racing heart, torn between her love for her father and her fear. As she walked, a beautiful vision of warm lotus light filled her mind. In this dream, she saw her father standing tall, his eyes wide open and filled with joy, looking at her with love. Kneeling quietly on the frosty path, Cheong folded her hands in prayer. "If my life can bring light to my father's eyes, I will gladly offer myself to the deep sea." Her resolve became absolute. Returning to the well, Cheong approached the waiting liaison. She bowed with perfect grace, her face calm and steady, showing that she had made her choice and was ready to speak. "Is it true," she asked softly, "that if I offer myself to the sea, the merchants will faithfully deliver 300 bags of rice to the temple for my father?" The liaison looked at her solemnly. The liaison lifted a bowl and nodded. "Yes. If you agree, they will send the rice to the temple immediately, and they will return to fetch you when the appointed day arrives." Cheong knelt before him, her voice unwavering. "I will be the offering. If my father can regain his sight, I have no regrets." Startled by her selfless words, the liaison turned to her in shock. Cheong, this is a matter of life and death, the liaison urged, trying to comfort her. Once you agree, there is no turning back. Please, think of another way. But Cheong remained unmoved. Rising slowly, Cheong smoothed her robes and spoke with firm determination. This is my own choice, made out of love. Please, tell the merchants that I accept and ensure they keep their promise. Moved by her devotion, the liaison bowed deeply to her. I swear by the heavens that the 300 bags of rice will reach the temple, and the pact will be kept. The agreement was sealed. The liaison departed quickly to arrange the rice, leaving Cheong alone by the silent well. In the quiet morning air, she stood in solitude, quietly accepting the heavy fate she had chosen. With a heavy heart, Cheong began her slow journey back to the cottage where her father waited. Each step felt heavier than the last, but her love for him guided her forward through the quiet lanes. Inside the cottage, Sim Hak-yu heard his daughter's familiar footsteps and reached out his hand. Cheong stepped forward and embraced him in silence, holding back her tears as she clung to him. Cheong lovingly prepared a warm bowl of rice and placed it before her father. Knowing this might be one of their last meals together, she gently placed the spoon in his hand, urging him to eat. Sim Hak-yu felt the unusual silence in the room and the slight trembling of his daughter's hand. Setting down his spoon, he reached for her hand and asked with deep concern what had happened. Cheong knelt before her father, her voice soft but clear. "Father, do not be afraid. I have obtained the 300 bags of rice. I have agreed to go with the merchants as their offering." Sim Hak-yu sprang to his feet, crying out in panic. "What are you saying? To trade your life for my sight is madness. I will not allow it. I would rather remain blind forever." Cheong gently guided her weeping father back to his seat, comforting him. "Father, this is not your fault. It is my own choice, and seeing you walk in the light is my only wish." Sim Hak-yu embraced his daughter, begging her not to go, while Cheong wept softly against his shoulder. The small room was filled with their heartbreaking tears as they held each other close. Through the long night, by the dim light of a flickering lantern, Sim Hak-yu prayed for a miracle to save his daughter. Cheong sat beside him, holding his hands to comfort him in his grief. As the first light of dawn appeared, the heavy footsteps of the liaison echoed outside the gate. Hearing the sound, Cheong turned her head toward the door, knowing the final moment had arrived. At the cottage gate, Cheong and her father shared one last embrace. Her red ribbon fluttered in the cold dawn wind as her father held her tightly, unable to let his beloved daughter go. Cheong bowed deeply to her father one last time, then turned toward the waiting liaison. Sim Hak-yu reached out blindly into the cold air, his fingers grasping for her disappearing warmth. Looking back with every step, Cheong departed along the misty dawn path with the liaison. Sim Hak-yu stood by the gate, reaching his hand out into the empty wind, calling her name in farewell.